everybody, and welcome to episode 30 of the Stitching Between Pages podcast. I'm Robin. You can find me on Ravelry as halfpast92 and on Instagram and Twitter as medievalisting. You can find the Ravelry group for our podcast at Stitching Between Pages podcast on Ravelry in the groups tab. And you can find show notes for this and previous episodes at stitchingbetweenpages.blogspot.com. I am, as always, joined by my co-host, Holly Noyes, who has no social media profiles at all. Thank goodness for something. So, anyways, let's see. Today is, well, as always, I'm filming early. So when I post this, it will be the 15th of May, Sunday, the 15th of May. It's Saturday for me. I'm filming just a day early this time. And yeah, it's still weirdly chilly outside. I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a hot weather person. But I'm also dreading, in 2 weeks when it's suddenly 95 degrees and high humidity and there was no in between. 65 degrees is my favorite. So anyways, I feel like I always talk about the weather and have been keeping you posted on how spring in Chicago is going. And it's a little gray outside today. I'm not sure if it's supposed to rain. We had quite the deluge last night, and I'm not sure if it's going to rain anymore today. Anyways, since we last spoke, I have done quite a bit of knitting, and I also, I guess Wednesday evening, I had kind of this minor panic of, oh no, I've just finished something, which I will show you in a moment, and I feel like I've shown you guys the same thing week after week, or the same things, the same projects week after week, and it's been a long time since I had something new. I think I overcompensated because in the space of about 24 hours, I cast on 3 new projects and the second sock of the pair of socks that I have been knitting for a little while, which is very uncharacteristic for me because I think I've let you in on my little secret that I don't actually enjoy casting on very much. I enjoy everything about the middle part of knitting. Casting on is not my favorite. The first couple rows where you're sort of feeling out, is the yarn and the pattern going to work well together? I always fail to count the stitches I've cast on correctly, so that's always boring. And if it's a long, even 64 stitches for a sock sometimes just feels like so many stitches. So anyways, this is no surprise to anybody that, I've talked about this before, that is not my favorite. But yeah, I have a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. Holly, are you going to cause trouble? I was sitting, I had my lunch and I was sitting on the sofa and she was sitting on my lap and I had to move to get up and do the podcast, and so I think she's a little sad about that. She was very cozy. Okay, so knitting. Let's talk about some knitting. The project which I finished, which I'm so excited about, is my Waiting for Rain shawl. And I knew it was going to be big. It is huge. I didn't wear it because I need to do laundry and didn't really have anything that matched. But look at how it turned out. I am so pleased, and it is a little bit wider than my wingspan. I'm about 5'4"-ish, so it's pretty substantial, and it's deep too. So I knew that the lace was going to be beautiful once it was blocked, but look, it's just, I love it. Look at that. And the stripes, I just sort of did them randomly as I felt like it. So the first section before the first lace has some stripes, and then the entire second section is striped, and then between lace panels 2 and 3, it's hard to tell, but this gray, that's all that's in between them, and no stripes there. And then a couple of stripes before the last big lace panel, and then I bound off in yellow. because why wouldn't I do that? So I'm so pleased with this project. And it took me a little bit longer than I thought it would because I only wanted to knit on it when I was happy about it and when I, like had some time to sit down and really enjoy it, because it was such a wonderful knit. The pattern is Waiting for Rain, designed by Sylvia Bobilvia. It's a paid for pattern on Ravelry. And I know there have been numerous versions knit, but if you have thought about knitting it and haven't done so, I highly recommend it. So I do have a little bit left over of my 2 colors, which is great. There was a relatively brief period where I was worried that I was going to run out of one or the other of the colors. But I did not. I have some for my blanket, which has been very neglected lately, and some for maybe some mini swaps or something. So the gray is anyways, the gray is Cedar House yarns in the Sapling Sock Base and the Fog colorway. And it was so wonderful to knit with. It's really smooth, and I would say it's on the finer side of fingering, which worked perfectly with the yellow, which is Madeline Tosh Merino Light in the Candlewick colorway. Every time I see this kind of tape, it makes me think of libraries and library books. It's the tape that librarians sometimes use to put like the plastic covers on the library books. Do you know what I'm talking about? It always makes me think of libraries. But anyways, Candlewick, Tosh Merino Light, I'm sure that most of you are probably familiar with this yarn, and it is a great yarn. Do love a good single ply, and I think it worked perfectly for the lace sections. It's just, it's so pretty. I can't get enough. I cannot get enough. So the upside of the fact that it's been so chilly out is that maybe I will actually get to wear this shawl before the fall, which I was not expecting. I'm just drinking some plain Irish breakfast in my I'd rather be reading mug. I like the quote on the back. It says, "Books are like imprisoned souls until someone takes them down from a shelf and frees them." So I'm actually, as soon as I finish filming, it's going to be reading for the rest of the day. So that's cool. So the other thing that I finished, and I think I will show it now because it is a finished object, really. I finished plying my latest handspun. So that's really cool. And I have about 110 yards in 50 grams. So I'm thinking it's kind of a DK-ish weight. Light worsted maybe. I'm really pleased. It's been twisted for a while, but it's relatively balanced. It has its thick and thin spots. I can't speak English, but I'm really pleased with it. Overall, it's I would say it's more even than even the last thing that I spun. So this was some poonies from Naturally Knitty. There's her card. In the Crazy Like a Fox colorway, I had 2 ounces, and it contained Falkland, Merino, Shetland, and Targhee. And it was really fun to spin. It was the first time I'd spun with poonies. And I really enjoyed it. So that's cool, and I'm really pleased with how it came out. I love the sort of rich, rusty, reddish brown. And the little hints of black, and there's some bits of gray, and I'm really pleased with it, you guys. So that's cool. And this is going to sit on my shelf for a while, I think. I'm not in any hurry to knit it up. I don't have a project in mind for it, and so I'd rather wait until something jumps out at me that, this is what you need to knit with that handspun that you have. So that's cool. It can join the other skein of handspun that's just hanging out on my shelf. Hey, did I say I think I have about 110 yards, and it's about 50 grams. I lost a little bit when I was spinning, so probably just under 50 grams. I haven't weighed it. I did measure it, but I did not weigh it. So that is it for finished objects. Oh, that's pretty good. It has been a while since I had a finished object to show you guys. So now, on to works in progress, of which I have 4. 5 if you count my spinning, because I did start spinning something new. So let me start with the one project you've seen before. This is amazing. Like I said, I felt, I didn't feel bad, but I was aware that I had been showing the same projects over and over and over. So it was time for something new. So in my lovely bag from Anna Marie, I have my socks. Okay, one of my pairs of socks, the pair that you've seen before. So in case you are new to the podcast, in which case welcome, I hope you enjoy. I'm really bad. I never say that. I always fail to welcome new and returning viewers. So welcome to all of you. If you haven't watched before, this is my standard vanilla sock, except that I added a little cable down the outside of the leg, and it goes all the way down. It goes until I started decreasing for the toe. And it's just a little cable, just a simple cable over 4 stitches with eyelets on either side. I cast on my usual 64 stitches. I did a 1x1 twisted rib, for 16 rounds. If you're curious about the cable, there's details in the project page on Ravelry for this pattern. And so I Explained what I did. But it's simple, it's easy, it's over 4 rows. And it's easy to tell, if you happen to stop in the middle, you would easily be able to figure out where you were. So I finally cast on the second sock. And this is really actually almost not worth showing because I have not done a whole lot, and it will probably become obvious very quickly why I haven't done a whole lot, because I've been busy with other things. So I just have a grand total of noise. Sit down. Don't climb on the desk, please. Nope. I've only done 8 rounds, so there's 2 cables so far. Yep, not very exciting yet. I am knitting these on my Knitter's Pride Carbons DPNs, which I love. They're really great needles. I already knew that I loved carbons, but I hadn't used DPNs yet. I just have a couple of circulars. And my parents gave me these for my birthday. They're US ones, which is a 2.25 millimeter, which is my standard sock knitting needle. And I have a couple of stitch markers you can see here. These are from Cat's Pajamas Crafts, I want to say, on Etsy. I got them at DFW Fiber Fest last month. Hard to believe that was a month and a half ago. And then I don't really technically need an end of the round marker. The cable does that, but I have a little, it's a book, and it was given to me by Amber of the Yarn Junkie podcast. It focused very briefly, and I have a cat who's meowing at me impatiently. Anyways, it's a book. You can take my word for it. So I am knitting these socks out of, I will show you the ball and then I'll get out the tag. It's lovely. It's greens and blues and whites. The light is blowing it out. I have a bunch of lights on in my apartment because it's kind of gray outside. So this is Regia Nuance in their 4-ply. Color 4989. I think I said last week that it was the Arctic colorway, and I think I was wrong. And I have not had a chance to look up what color 4989 is, but it's subtle stripes. And I looked actually. It does repeat. I wasn't sure if it did, but it does. So a repeat is that long, which is pretty good. So yeah, so I will hopefully be able to make some more progress on those soon, but I just wanted to get them started because it was kind of ridiculous that I had not started the second one when I enjoyed the first one so much. It was such a nice change. I guess I was more tired of vanilla socks than I thought I was. Matching DPN cozy, which really I have done nothing because it isn't even hanging out of the end of the cozy yet. So yeah, I guess I was more tired of vanilla socks than I thought I was. Oops, the tag back in too, so I don't lose it. That would be sad. So now on to the exciting new projects. A couple of days ago, maybe just yesterday, I posted on Instagram a picture of this sock. So if you follow me on Instagram, you will already have seen, and I have made no progress since I made the post. But I saw Tracy of the Grocery Girls knitting this pair of socks, and it was immediate. I had to knit these socks. So I went out and I needed like a neutral color, and for somebody who really enjoys neutral colors, I have almost no neutrals in my stash. Actually might not have any neutrals in my stash at the moment that aren't spoken for a project, which is a bit of a shame. I really need to fix that. So I went out and bought some Regia Extra Twist Merino, which I had never heard of. I'm sure all of you who are frequent Regia users will be familiar with this, but it's from their premium line. And it comes in 50-gram balls, and it's color 9365. Why don't you name your colors, Regia? Why do you not do that? And it's 75% superwash merino, 25% polyamide. So it's machine washable. Obviously, superwash merino, that would be the thing. And it's really like very pleasantly soft. So since it's 50 grams, I have two. And here's the other one. So this is the neutral color. It's kind of, in some lights it looks very like a true gray, and in other lights it almost looks like it has a little bit of beige in it. The camera is showing it as gray, but it looks a little bit kind of a gray-y, beige-y color, which sounds very unpleasant, but I really like it. So what are these socks that I'm knitting? They are the Fair Isle Flower Socks by Candice DeWitt. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, which is amazing. It astounds me when, like, this pattern, obviously it has a chart, it's color work. This was not a, work of a moment to come up with, but it's free. So that's really cool. And it has been a long time since I did any color work. Oh, let me tell you about the other color. The other color that I am using is a little bit of leftovers. It is green. And this is Malabrigo sock in the lettuce colorway, which those of you who have been watching me for a long time may remember. Last spring and summer, So relatively early on in my podcasting time, I got it into my head, and I don't know where from. I wanted to knit a pair of green and cream socks, and the green is this green. It was a very specific image that I had in my head. Some of you, if you've used Malabrigo sock, you will know that it is 100% merino. There's no nylon in it, but this was the green, so I was going to knit those socks, nylon or not. And I love them. They are one of my favorite pairs of socks that I've ever knit. They're vanilla socks with cream heel and toe, and a cream cuff. Don't remember. Don't think so. I think it's just the heel and the toe, but I could be wrong about that. Don't know. They're some of my favorite socks, and I don't know what they look like. Oops. Anyways, I knit them about a year ago, and I've given some of this green away in swaps. I've put a square in my own blanket, my own crocheted granny square sock scrap blanket, but I had a little bit left, and I decided that it would be perfect. So here are my socks. Do you not, if you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen them. They are, I knit this cuff in an evening. That is how obsessed I was by these socks. I knit them while rewatching the end of, I rewatched the whole thing, but I finished up the second season of Peaky Blinders on Netflix because season 3 has started airing in the UK and is coming to Netflix, I think, at the end of this month. So I wanted to refresh my memory of how things were left off. And I just kept knitting on the cuff. This is the whole cuff. The next thing to do is add the heel, and it's a heel flap in the pattern. So that is what I shall do. But I just love these socks so much, you guys. I cannot get over how lovely this was to knit. And it has been a long time since I did any sort of stranded color work. It was probably my B-Dale hat, which was, I want to say that was a year and a half ago. But I remembered how to do it, so that's cool. And I'm actually pretty pleased with my gauge. There's there's definitely stitches that are a little bit uneven, but it's nothing that won't, a good block will sort it out. A little bath and a dry will fix my problems. I love them. I really cannot recommend this pattern enough, you guys. I definitely would not say it's not for a novice sock knitter, and if you've knit a couple pairs of socks and have done some color work, you could manage it. It's not that difficult, but I wouldn't do this as your first sock or your first color work. I think that's what I'm going for here. And I am knitting these on Knit Pro Things, which again, a US 1 with my standard sock knitting size, 2.25 millimeter. And I really like them. I was a little bit skeptical. The first round that I knit, I thought, the points on these are a little bit blunt, but they're really nice needles. And I love the yellow. I love the fact that they're colorful. And they actually worked perfectly for my stranded color work. And I will say that the Regia is a little bit splitty, so it's probably really good that the points aren't too sharp. So I obviously have not tried it on because DPNs make it a little bit difficult to try socks on, but I'm not concerned about getting it over my leg. I was just really conscious about keeping my floats nice and loose. I do love how the inside of color work looks. And I used to catch my floats every 3 stitches, and so that you didn't have floats that were any longer than 3 stitches. I didn't do that on these socks because because the color work is only on the cuff, and I'm really not worried about like catching my toe in the floats or anything. Like I know that these are stranded color work socks. I will be careful. And I find that it's easier for me to keep the floats loose if I'm not constantly catching them. I hope that made sense. I'm not sure if you have questions about what I'm talking about, let me know in the thread on Ravelry. I just want to hold these up and talk about them more because I love them. Yeah, so that's really cool. And I love the fact that this is how long the cuff will be. Like I said, the next thing to do is to add in the heel. And I think that's really fun. This is like a good cuff length, I think, because I think it'll fit under my jeans in the winter. It won't, it's long enough that there won't be a gap between, cold ankles. Cold ankles are no good in the winter. But it's not nearly as long as my typical cuff. So that's fun. And I also really like 6 rounds of ribbing. That is my kind of ribbing. 6 rounds, that's it. And I'm not really worried because the socks are short enough, and I think the fact that there's a double layer of knitting or a double layer of yarn because of the color work and the floats, I'm not worried about them slipping down because they kind of stand up by themselves. So yeah, genius. Living in my little bag from Jibby Russo's with the little forest friends on it, which is super cute. So that is that. Yeah, oh, I love these socks so much, you guys. They are my favorite. Did I say that the pattern was designed by Candace DeWitt? I think I did, but I don't want to have forgotten that in case anybody else would like to jump on the bandwagon and knit some super fun Fair Isle socks. You should come join me. It would be great. So, since we're on the subject of socks, I will show you the other socks that I cast on. And these are this is a bag I haven't used in a while, and it's one of my favorites. It says, "You Must Not Ever Stop Being Whimsical" by Mary Oliver, who is a poet. She's a modern American poet. Lovely, lovely poetry. You should check her out if you are interested in poetry and have not heard of her. She's really wonderful. So I think it's probably supposed to be like a makeup pouch or something, but as a non-makeup wearer, I have repurposed it into a yarn project bag. So I am using this beautiful, beautiful yarn, which that's the light side. That's pretty good color-wise. Yeah, this cake came out so beautifully. I love it when cakes come out right. And this is yarn that I got from my mom for Christmas. It's from Camelot Dye Works. Their website is camelotdyeworks.com. They are in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I forget the name of the town. But I think that they're also a yarn store. I think Camelot Dye Works, I think it's a local yarn shop in addition to the fact that they dye their own yarn. And this is the Galahad sock base in the colorway Sunflower. And it's a really generous skein, 460 yards. And I wouldn't say it's not an especially plump fingering, but I also don't think it's an especially fine fingering, either. So it's a really, really nicely generous skein. And it is 60% superwash merino, 30% bamboo, and 10% nylon. I realized that as I was making my project page on Ravelry. I've never knit with anything that has any bamboo in it, and I'm really enjoying it. I know that it will make the sock stronger, which is great, but it also gives it this really lovely sheen and drape. Like, the yarn is very drapey, so I will have to maybe knit something else. I mean, these are socks, but it would be really wonderful to knit like a shawl or something. I think it would be beautiful. So I think I mentioned that I wanted to use this yarn for the Fine and Dandy socks, which have been quite popular lately. It is a design by the Sweater Co., available on Ravelry for $1 Australian, which I bought the pattern yesterday and it was like 75 cents. That's pocket change. And the great thing is that all of the proceeds from the pattern go to a charity. That charity is currently UNICEF. So if you are thinking about knitting this pattern, I would definitely recommend it. It's not expensive at all, and the cost of the pattern goes to a wonderful cause. Also, it is proving super fun to knit. So I've only done 2 sets of the little flowers so far. It's obviously a toe-up sock, and oops, project bag just slipped down. But they're super fun. So this is like, I guess, one repeat, but the first row has 4 flowers and the second row has 3. And they are so fun. They're really fun to make. The little flowers. They are not difficult at all. Although you can tell I've gotten better. This one and this one look a little bit better than the first one that I did over here. So yeah, and you can see this yarn is just beautiful. It kind of looks like, I don't know, like honey, or it's just a beautiful golden. The color is sunflower, but it actually does not, I don't think it's a sunflower yellow. And maybe it is when they dye it up on other bases. I know bamboo takes dye differently, and it tends to not be quite so saturated. So yes, very much enjoying these. I am knitting them on my Haya Sharps, which is the perfect needle for making these little flowers. I would definitely recommend using a sock knitting needle that's on the sharper side for making the little flowers. But yeah, that is, I worked on these a little bit this morning with a cup of coffee. I did the second row of flowers. I wanted to have a little bit more to show you. I just cast these on last night. So yeah, that is that. So that's it for socks. This is hands down the most socks I have ever had on the go at a single time. I used to have only ever 1 pair of socks on the go, and now I have 3, and none of them are vanilla socks, which is kind of strange, since for quite some time there I was only knitting vanilla socks. So the last knitting work in progress that I have to show you, which is in the bag, this bag from Fondant Fiber, which was housing my Waiting for Rain shawl. It's huge, very substantial, so perfect for a multiple skein project. I cast on the 3-color cashmere shawl, and I actually cast it on this morning. Again, over my morning coffee. I had a very nice leisurely Saturday morning. So I have not done very much, but I wanted to see how the Modern Fair Isle was going to knit up, to see how I thought it would play with my choices for the other 2 colors in the shawl. None of my yarns have cashmere. They're all, I think they are all 100% merino. Yep, 100%, all 100% superwash merino, all single plies. So here we have the very start of my shawl. I am at the point where you switch to the 2nd color and continue, so there's eyelets. It's a little bit hard to tell, but I have 2 sets of eyelets so far. And I think it's gonna work out really well. When it was in the skein, and I knew that Modern Fair Isle had more colors in it than just the gray and the orange. So here is what it looks like. This is Madeline Tosh Merino Light. Are we going to focus? No. Nope. Here we go. So it has little flashes of pink and yellow, and there is at least 1 of blue. And this is the moment where I decided that it would work out. Probably won't focus, but there is a little bit of blue right, oh yes it did, right there, right by my index finger. So I think it will play nicely. And seeing it knit up, I'm very much reassured. So I only caked up the Tosh Merino Light in the Modern Fair Isle colorway. Modern Fair Isle. I don't understand why are Madeline Tosh tags sometimes white, sometimes brown. This person just used plain Scotch tape, not the library book cover tape. Anyways, that was unrelated. So probably this evening, I will cake up Color Me, which is this beautiful skein of yarn. Hang on, tag's in the way. There we go. From Kismet Fiberworks. It's their sole base in the Lucky Penny colorway. And it was fun. When I bought these, they put their tags, and I don't know if they still do this or not, but they put their tags on these hair ties, which would be great, which at the time was great. I had long hair when I bought these. And I don't actually need hair ties anymore, so alas. Anyways, I still think it's fun, and I like the purple with the sort of coppery brown. But I think this will be really pretty. I'm really excited to see how it goes. And then Color C, which comes in later, is also Kismet Fiberworks. I will show you the front of the tag. Also in their sole base. But this color is called Juniper, which I think is like absolutely spot on. This is perfect, bright juniper blue. It's really pretty. So I'm super excited to see how this goes now that I have officially committed to it. How can you know, I needed another shawl on the needles, basically. I think I finished Waiting for Rain. I bound off on Wednesday, blocked it Thursday, and finished weaving in the last of the ends on Friday, yesterday evening. So that is all the knitting I have, but I did start spinning my braid of Malabrigo Nube. And thank you to the viewer who is Spanish, or British Spanish, who commented in the YouTube comments for my last video to let me know that Nube does indeed mean cloud in Spanish, and that the colorway, piedras, means stones. So that's cool. I now know 2 words of Spanish. But let me show you what I have not spun. So I had to undo the entire braid. So if you want to see what it looks like in the braid, you can watch last episode where I showed it and said this is the thing that I am going to spin next. It's beautiful. It's like greens and sort of purples and bright copper oranges. It's kind of hard to show you now. I don't know what the heck this is. It's attached to the fiber, so I haven't broken it off yet. And somebody else asked if I would let you know how it was to spin, because, and I've heard this too, that this fiber tends to come felted and tends to be really hard to draft and spin. And I would say, yeah, it's been a little bit squished. I don't know if it was the way it was braided or the way that it was shipped. I've also had it for almost a year, which absolutely does not help, and I moved with it. So, you know, I tried really hard. Obviously, I put all of my fiber in one box, very lightly, you know, I didn't squish it, and tried really hard not to put it under anything, so it was always on top and therefore not squished at all. But you know, it did get moved, so that probably didn't help matters. But I'm finding, and I never spin just from the braid. My drafting skills are not that good, so I always, you know, rip a chunk off and then rip it into pieces. This one is on the narrow side, but when you rip off a chunk, you know, you kind of fluff it out, and I'm sure there's going to be a you know, more experienced spinner out there who's going to be like, what are you doing? But then it kind of, you know, naturally has these little, so I break off pieces like that. And I'm finding that if I do that, which is my pretty much my normal fiber prep process anyways for normal. I've spun all of, this is my 3rd braid, 4th ever like proper spin. So I'm very, very much a novice at this, but that is what I've done in the past anyways. And it's working out really well, and I'm finding it really pleasant to spin. So it is just 100% merino. And here is what I have so far. So I'm spinning this on, it's my shocked spindle, the same one that I always use to spin. And it's hard to tell, but so it started out with kind of this like, camera is not doing it justice at all. Kind of a lighter version of the color of my walls, actually, like a sea glass or a jade green with bits of darker green. And then since then, it's been sort of this purple and orange blend, but it's really pretty, and I'm really, really enjoying it. And I feel like it's super consistent so far, so I'm very happy about that, the spinning. And I was thinking about it last night when I was spinning, I might try to learn to chain ply for this, because I feel like the colors are such that it could end up looking a little bit muddy if I just 2-ply, which is what I've always done because it's really easy. So if anybody has any resources that they recommend for learning how to chain ply, let me know. And I'm thinking of maybe spinning up, I have a little bit left over from the very first braid that I spun, and I'm thinking about spinning that up real quick on my other spindle and learning on that, so that then I, don't totally screw up and waste any of my beautiful this beautiful braid. So if you have resources that you would recommend for chain plying, let me know. I would probably do best learning from a video. So if you have any recommendations, they would be very much appreciated. I think that is all of the, that is all of the works in progress that I have for you. But, I should have talked about this when I was talking about my 3-color shawl. I'm not going to call it 3-color cashmere shawl because there is no cashmere in it. Did I say that's the 3-color cashmere shawl is designed by Joji Locatelli? Probably everybody knew that. But in case you did not, and in case I really did forget to say it, it's a design by Joji Locatelli, who it's based on her earlier 3-color cashmere cowl. So, related to that, and I mentioned it on the last episode too, but I'm really excited because Robin and Mary of the Cherry Pearls podcast and I are co-hosting a knit-along, the Summer Colors knit-along. And like I said in the last episode, the idea is to use at least 2, you can use more than 2, different colorways of yarn. So self-striping yarn, if you use a single skein of self-striping yarn, it doesn't count. You could use 2 separate skeins of self-striping yarn and stripe them together or use them together somehow, that would count. But 2 different colorways of yarn, at least. Could be more than 2, 3 colors, 4, whatever. And yeah, so the idea is just to play around with color and have some fun. It will run from the 1st of June through the 31st of July, so you'll have 2 months. And since I have already started my 3-color shawl, which is my contribution to the knit-along, you might have guessed that works in progress are totally welcome, just so long as you're less than 50% done. Your judgment as to what that means, it's a little harder to judge for a shawl. If you're doing socks, it's easier to tell 50% done is a single sock. So I will be putting up, at the same time that I put up this episode thread, I will put up a chatter thread in the Ravelry group that will have the rules, which are pretty straightforward. And yeah, it would be really great. Come on over and let us know what you're knitting. Talk to us about the colors you want to use. I had so much fun with our post-Christmas blues knit-along that I'm really looking forward to doing another one. And I'm really excited that the Cherry Pearls podcast ladies invited me to co-host with them. So you are totally welcome to double dip so long as you're a member of both groups. You can enter both of our both of our threads. So that will be super fun. Chatter thread will be going up, and then the FO thread will be up on the 1st of June. And I'm trying to think, do I have another podcast before then? Yes, I do. Yep. So it'll be after the next episode. The first is a little bit over 2 weeks away. So that's that, and that is all of the knitting that I have for you guys this week. But I do want to talk about the book that I was going to talk about last time. If you watched the last episode, I talked instead about a novel called Dancer by Colin McCann, because the weekend that I filmed included International Dance Day. That was Friday the 29th of April. I think I have that right. And I did a bunch of dancing that weekend. I was in a little recital at my studio. So I thought it was appropriate, but it meant that I had to push one of my favorite books of all time, Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh. And so I have the movie cover. The movie is frankly not that great, but it's a wonderful book. And I think most people know Evelyn Waugh, who was a British writer in the first half of the 20th century, as a satirist. And his satire is brilliant. He was a member of the Bright Young Things of the 1920s in London. And he wrote a sort of satirical version of his time among these people called Vile Bodies, which was published in 1930, I think. And I do enjoy his satire that I've read, but Brideshead Revisited is something else. It starts off during World War II. And, well, let me read you the back. The wellsprings of desire and the impediments to love come brilliantly into focus in Evelyn Waugh's masterpiece, a novel that immerses us in the glittering and seductive world of an aristocratic English family in the waning days of the Empire. And then Lev Grossman, for Time, said, a genuine literary masterpiece. Brideshead Revisited is actually a wildly entertaining, swooningly funny, sad story about an impressionable young man, Charles Ryder, who goes to Oxford in the 1930s and falls in love with a family. The wealthy, eccentric, aristocratic Flights, owners of a grand old country house called Brideshead. Told in flashbacks from the dark days of World War II, the novel is a glimmer with the guttering candle glow of an elegant age that was already passing away. So the novel opens with Charles Ryder during World War II, and he ends up back at Brideshead with his company. And so then that leads to flashbacks of his time at Oxford with Sebastian Flight, who he meets at Oxford. In the film, Ben Whishaw plays Sebastian, and Matthew Good plays Charles Ryder. And Haley Atwood plays Sebastian's sister, whose name is not going to come to me, which is really inexcusable, that I cannot think of her name, because her character is also really wonderful. But it's just, and I think funny sad is exactly the right way to put it. It's, I don't know, it's kind of one of those books that just, it's not like a sobbing sad story, but it kind of just like punches you, and I don't know, it's very, you don't expect it to be as emotionally powerful as it is, and then suddenly you're sad about the things that, how this story plays out. Newsweek said, a multifaceted book beautifully told by one of the most exhilarating stylists of our time. And the Los Angeles Times said, heartbreakingly beautiful, the 20th century's finest English novel. It's just wonderful. If you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. I've not seen it. It was also turned into a TV series in the early 1980s, I think, and I have not seen that. But even if you saw the movie and didn't like the movie, the book is almost always better than the movie, but in this instance, the book is miles better. It's so good. I think I've probably read it twice, and now that I've talked about it, I want to read it again. It's just, oh, Julia. That's Sebastian Flight's sister's name. Her name is Julia. Oh, thank goodness, I have slightly redeemed myself. So, since I mentioned Evelyn Waugh was one of the bright young things, I'm not really supposed to be reading for fun, but I'm very, very, very slowly. I've been working on this for like a couple of months, and I'm less than halfway through. Nancy Mitford was another of the bright young things, and Love in a Cold Climate is one of her most well-known novels. The Spectator said, entirely original, inimitable, and irresistible. Inimitable is such a good word. So I'll read you the back of this one too. I don't want to give it a proper review because I am, like I said, less than halfway through. One of Nancy Mitford's most beloved novels, Love in a Cold Climate, is a sparkling romantic comedy that vividly evoked the lost glamour of aristocratic life in England between the wars. And England between the wars is one of my very favorite non-medieval historical periods. It's kind of a secret. I feel like I'm, not supposed to, for a historian who, my historical subjects are centuries old. And, there are still people alive. My grandparents were born in the 1920s. Anyways, Polly Hampton has long been groomed for the perfect marriage by her mother, the fearsome and ambitious Lady Montdor. But Polly, with her stunning good looks and impeccable connections, is bored by the monotony of her glittering debut season in London. Having just come from India, where her father served as viceroy, she claims to have hoped that society in a colder climate would be less obsessed with love affairs. The apparently aloof and indifferent Polly has a long-held secret, however, one that leads to the shattering of her mother's dreams and to her own disinheritance. When an elderly duke begins pursuing the disgraced Polly, and a callow potential heir curries favor with her parents, nothing goes as expected, but in the end, all find happiness in their own unconventional ways. So, I'm, like I said, very, very, very slowly reading and enjoying Love in a Cold Climate. It's kind of my secret. So anyways, I think that's all I've got for you guys this time. I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and to all new and returning viewers, thanks for checking it out and for spending a little bit of your knitting time with me. I know there are many, many, many podcasts that you can choose from, and it means a lot to me that you guys decide to spend some of your time with me. So anyways, I think that's about it. I hope that you all come over and start chatting in the Summer Colors chatter thread, which, like I said, will be going up at the same time as this episode does. Because that'll be really great. I want to know what all of you are going to knit. And you can feel free to start now if you want, as long as you don't get more than 50% done by the 1st of June, which is a Wednesday. Midweek. So that's fun. Nice thing to get over the midweek slump that sometimes hits all of us. So yep, I think that's it. Happy knitting, guys, and I will see you again in a couple of weeks. Have a good one. Bye.